Hello, everyone. This is Katya and Marusa from House of Pitch, the platform for cold outreach. And today we talk with Jon Swartz from MarketWatch of Dow Jones about media and PR and what's going on in the world and how we can leverage all the knowledge that we know about the situation. Jon, thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure having you. And could you just briefly introduce yourself? Like, what are your
Sure.
tweets? What are you writing about? And then I'll ask the questions.
Okay. So if you don't know who I am, and probably many of you don't, I'm Jon Swartz. I work at Dow Jones. I've been here for about 7 years. Before here, I was at USA Today for about 20 years. I worked at Forbes, the London Independent, San Francisco Chronicle, etc. And I cover tech. So the last couple of years, I've been focusing on big tech and regulation and AI, especially AI. I also read about streaming. So my interests right now are AI as it pertains to development among the companies like Adobe, Salesforce, Apple, everyone, and how they're going to navigate the regulatory waters, especially in Europe, now that there's been a crackdown on big tech. That's kind of a focus of mine. I'm also writing a lot about Disney. They have a shareholders meeting Wednesday that's been acrimonious and is going to include a couple of activist investors who want to be on the Disney board. So that's taken up a lot of my time. I used to write a lot about Apple, not so much anymore, but I think I will be increasingly because that company is incredibly vulnerable of late on many fronts. So that's it for me. We spoke in Austin for quite a long time. We did a video and we ran the gamut of tech. You talked about Russian politics.
Yeah.
About US politics.
That was a lovely conversation.
Yeah, that was really good. I learned a lot. We talked about that science fiction series, which I'm now hearing more so about on Netflix, I believe.
Right.
But
I already watched it. So for the next
oh my
conversation
gosh.
about everything, we will recap this famous show, which is Three Body Problem. And actually, there is a drama behind this, like someone poisoned someone. I briefly saw it yesterday.
Wow.
So in the filming crew,
Oh my God.
there is a
Wow.
detective story. But today we will concentrate on what's going on with the media. And my first question is what it means for companies who are looking to improve their coverage. So what's with the media, the state of media,
The state
and the journalists
of the media,
who cover tech?
Yeah, the state of the media is pretty wobbly. I'm trying to be optimistic, but I'm afraid to tell you that there are fewer of us covering generally everything. So we have to make choices and sacrifices in what we can cover. I mean, I know here we've done hiring, but we've also had buyouts and we've had some layoffs. I think that's been the case at every media organization. So they're always trying to figure out the best way to make the most of what we have in terms of personnel and resources. So consequently, you're going to see kind of a shift in coverage from covering everything to trying to do deeper dives on certain types of stories. Like, for instance, I just mentioned Apple earlier. So if Apple has a problem, rather than just writing a story that anyone else could write, you're going to have to kind of pinpoint something that's happening at the company and try to lend some sort of expertise or historic knowledge or institutional knowledge to kind of advance the story and tell people not only exactly what's happening, but where the company goes from here. So you kind of want to get underneath the hood of the company, but you also want to be predictive and where that might lead. I mean, we write for investors and shareholders, so they're really concerned with the business model and the stock performance of the companies. So that's why the shareholders meeting at Disney is interesting to me. I'm also interested in all the regulation in Europe, especially DMA and the EU AI Act, as well as efforts in the US and how those correspond to companies trying to figure out how they develop AI extremely fast without getting into trouble. They want to develop AI fast, but they want it to be responsible. So you see some companies like Microsoft and Google that are far ahead of the pack. And then you see others who are trying to play catch up. So that's kind of those are the type of major themes I'm looking at. That's also another thing. Reporters now are being asked to do more thematic coverage, which means you kind of narrow your focus on what you're going to write about and kind of do a long narrative story arc with installments of stories versus just doing kind of like a wire story approach. You can't do that anymore because there are too many media organizations covering the same thing. So you have to try to distinguish yourself. So that's why it's harder sometimes for us. Before we had a lot of people who covered a lot of different things. Now it's just we have to make tougher choices. And also there's that increasing constant pressure to generate traffic, especially through the SEO. So I won't lie to you. I mean, there are certain companies that are going to guarantee you get more traffic than others. Apple, Netflix, Disney, Meta to a lesser extent. Google, if you put AI in the headline of a story or there's some sort of AI slant, it will get a lot of eyeballs and clicks.
Still the interest for AI stories is high. And what it means for startups and smaller companies when we acknowledge the increased competition and the shift to like deeper stories and maybe exclusive stories. How do you source your stories today, and how a smaller company can stand out in this environment, in this tough environment?
That's a good question. So one of the things, I guess it is a benefit, if we do stories on the same topic and try to get a better understanding of that topic, then the reporter, I mean, the best reporting should be from reporters who know the subject not only well, but they know it as well as the sources. So, you build up this expertise. Like usually you get that from doing these longer term stories, which I used to do, which are called like investigative projects, where you become the expert in the field. So what I'm trying to do is just focus on certain areas and understand them better. So one of the things I do, and you know this as well as anyone, Katja, is that I will do a query on LinkedIn, which I find a very valuable service. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, I will invariably, once or twice a week, tell you what I'm working on, basically. I will say, here's what I'm looking for. And this is how I find smaller companies, through word of mouth. So I've been introduced, for instance, on a story I'm working on now, to 4 or 5 sources I've never talked to before. I mean, one thing I want to do is I want to vary my sources, and I want a mix of females and males and people of different ethnic backgrounds and ages to include in the stories.
Yeah.
Different perspectives, diversity of opinion. I want to find more of those people because I do not want to fall into the trap of quoting the same people in every story. I really don't like that. I think it's like lazy. So what I'm trying to do in this story and other stories is just find more experts. And through LinkedIn, I'm finding really, really good sources, people who know the stuff well. And then when you meet them, they tell you about other people. And then you use, I mean, it's like it's creating a network of sourcing. And LinkedIn is just fantastic. I used to use X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Now I find that just pointless, and I won't even bother on Facebook. LinkedIn has become my best tool for reporting, basically.
Awesome. I see people applauding for this.
Oh, LinkedIn is just for adults, right? It's for
diverse sources.
serious-minded people who are actually mature in their viewpoints versus the flamethrowers on Twitter I have no use for.
Actually,
all of us don't.
Yep. I was going to mention that you're one of the few reporters who regularly post inquiries for comments and for opinions. So just follow Jon and you will see the areas of interest, and maybe you have a lot to say about.
I will be very transparent because one of the things, Katja, and I sorry to interrupt. One of the things that I think is really important is if you reach out on LinkedIn, you give people like 4 or 5 days to see what you're talking about versus the old method was you write the story and then you hear from people after the story's published. I want to hear from people before it's published.
That's way better. What specifically are you looking in the comments in this expert opinions among from like deeper understanding of the phenomena you're writing or the company? What should I write in the subject line to
well, I'll say
of like
yeah, I mean,
others emails that you get?
so so when I'm looking for, I'll usually point out with hashtags what the story theme is about. And in the actual intro, I will mention the type of people I'm looking for. Usually I'm looking for people who are like legal experts, but I'm also looking for activist investor experts. I'm looking for people who are experts in streaming. That's a big one. In terms of AI development, in terms of its impact on society and the economy. But I will mention specifically what I'm looking for, because I think I was always told that the best way to write a story is you create as narrow an angle as you can on it versus like a very broad sweeping question. Like you try to take off a piece of the story and go deeper into that part rather than trying to address everything. So that's kind of what I'm doing. So I will mention, I'm looking for certain people who know a lot about the Digital Markets Act or the EU AI Acts, who closely follow it and understand its impact on tech companies, especially US companies, and how they have to adhere to the European standards, which are much more aggressively pursued and enforced versus the US. I mean, I find that interesting how these US companies who want to just dive into AI have to think about the consequences of their actions and where it's going to lead them. So they have to kind of balance between the legal ramifications and criteria and requirements versus what they really want to do, is just reach as many people as possible, whether it's a consumer or a corporation. I mean, you have to kind of balance that. And I think a lot of the companies have hired or moved people around. We have the chief AI officer, for instance, which seems a little redundant. We have people who used to be in the technology side who are kind of now moving more from chief technology officer to AI specialist. A lot of these companies are kind of restructuring. That's why you see a lot of movement at the companies, a lot of layoffs, but a lot of hiring at the same time, because they're shifting their focus towards AI, which is a combination of everything they've done up to this point. And they really don't have a choice. So that's kind of interesting to me too, is how the dynamics of a company work in their pursuit of an AI strategy without getting themselves in trouble, which has happened and is happening to, as we see, the largest tech companies who are all being either sued by the Justice Department or the FTC or
By each other.
By each other. Yeah.
Like we see certain individuals or CEOs sue their former companies or just
yes, yeah, a lot of trade theft secrets,
and we see that a lot. How many cold story pitches you receive a day? Like how you handle this outreach coming towards you?
Well, it varies. Like certain weeks, it depends on the news cycle. Like there'll be like this Disney thing, which is shareholders meeting Wednesday morning. That will get a lot of pitches. I think I got 5 or 6 on Friday, just specifically about that topic. But in a typical day, I will get about at least 100.
Oh God!
Yeah, I get like a couple hundred. I mean, it's like 100 in one form or another. Sometimes they're repetition because I can't answer every pitch, so people will follow up, and I'm getting it through email, through text, through all forms of social media.
This is a tricky moment for people who want to pitch you. Like, how do you usually handle the stories that are not the best fit for your bids? Like, do you reply? Do you like even read?
I try. I'll get pitches from people who are trying to sell me on a story. on something I don't cover at all. Like I'll get pitches on things I've never written about. And I think it's just like, that's kind of like a broad pitch that's sent out to as many people as
Distribution,
possible.
like spray and pray.
Right.
Just send it
Yeah.
to a friend.
It's like a shotgun approach. And if they hit on someone, that's good. But sometimes I'll just say, hey, I just don't cover this, so they don't waste their time trying to pitch me in the future.
What if people follow up you in texts? How you react to that? Like, is it appropriate?
It's okay. It's fine.
Okay.
Here's the thing. So I've worked in the mainstream press for probably 30 years, 35. Before that, I used to work at a trade publication that covered the Mac. I used to work at a place in the US, and I worked at a trade publication in Europe, in London, that covered the Mac. And I'll tell you what, given the choice, I'd rather be inundated with pitches and correspondence than not get them, right? When I worked at a trade, it was so focused and so inside baseball that I had to actively reach out to people, to companies. Now that doesn't happen as much. This is also a difference because the companies themselves are so much more sophisticated on how to handle the press. They're really good about reaching out to us proactively. And I'm saying the companies from the smallest, and you'd be surprised, the largest companies are very aggressive about reaching out to reporters now. Apple does briefings all the time on their legal issues. I hear from them at least once a week. Now, before, you had to, even when I worked at USA Today or the Chronicle, I had to like prompt them at times. Now they're coming at you. Amazon does the same thing. Google, Meta, they are so much more, they're so much smarter and more engaged and better at communicating. They have more people.
Yeah,
they have more
probably
specialization.
have like 20 to 50 people.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I don't even know. There's certain people I will hear, like Salesforce. They've got like a dozen different people I'll hear from, and I'm happy to hear from them. And sometimes you'll even hear from the top level. I mean, I did a story, and Mark Benioff just was texting me saying, you should be talking to us about this, and he'll be pitching me. So I mean, it's happened. And we the thing about where I work now, which is different than when I worked at USA Today, was at USA Today is very consumer oriented. It's very mainstream. So a lot of companies don't find that as important to them. But if you work at a financial or business related publication, you're going to hear from a lot of the CFOs and the CEOs of the companies. I mean, across the gamut, which is really nice. And you'll get better comments, and you'll get better understanding of what's going on. It's just these are stories that are more focused on their bottom line versus the mainstream approach, which is more kind of consumer, overall view of things. I've done both. Both are valuable for different reasons, which I probably shouldn't go into, but they're different. And so now I'm kind of in that mode of talking to the C-suite people who really, really want to move their stock. So you get more access in a certain way, but also you feel as if there's a little bit of manipulation going on at the same time.
There is an interesting tension usually between the founders and their PR representatives, like
really? Okay.
How they present the stories. So sometimes founders, they're not trained specifically to talk with media, and they know pretty little about how media works and what is
I've heard that many
valuable
times
for reporters. But PR people are very conservative in what they share with reporters. So if you have the choice, who would you talk to a VP of comms or a founder or a CEO?
Right. Yeah, no, that's a really good point you make. I hear that all the time. So the companies assume that if you say you're going to talk to them, especially the smaller ones, they think they're going to be the focus of the story. And I usually try to use them as a chorus in the story. Basically, they're the voices that either confirm or counter the theme of the story. And I think it puts a lot of pressure on the people who handle the PR side because the expectations are too high because, again, fewer reporters covering more companies, and there's a total bias in the press. I don't care what anybody in the press tells you. There's a huge bias towards the top tier companies. Always has been.
That's an interesting thing. So what PR reps or founders pitching stories to you should never do? Something that's a hard
Oh,
no
God.
for further communications or for the story to go out.
I'm in no position to tell people how to do their jobs. I let alone have enough problems doing my own. So the one thing I hesitate to do is to critique people who do jobs that I know nothing or very little about. So I appreciate people reaching out to me and making an effort to help me or to explain something to me. I appreciate that. I'm never going to second guess them. And that one of the things I have a lot of things that always used to bother me on Twitter. One of them was like the reporter kind of publicly mocking a pitch that they got or somebody who interacted with them. And I felt that was always, there was nothing valuable about it or there's nothing, I don't know, educational about it. I just found it to be kind of a childish way to treat people because you never know. Like, say you criticize somebody, then they end up working at one of the major companies you follow. It doesn't do you any good. There's nothing constructive about it. So I'm just happy to hear from people. I can't reply to every single pitch I get, but I do try. I do think I'm trying to be responsive. But is there any pet peeve? Nothing really.
But usually if there is no reply, it means...
Oh, the worst thing I can do is not reply. I mean, that's the one thing. People will thank you if you say, even if you say, I can't do it or I won't do it because I'm not interested or it doesn't fit to what I'm trying to do. People appreciate just having you answer. And I learned that, they'll immediately say, thanks for doing that. I mean, I try to be, and I can't guarantee I'll do it all the time. Sometimes, the only thing that may bother me is if you tell someone I'm not really interested in doing that story or I've already done it, and then they crop up once in a while.
They try to talk you
pitching
into
it again. Yeah, I just usually ignore those, honestly. Because if you say no to somebody and they keep asking you the same question, I don't know what use there is in saying no multiple times.
Awesome. That's why we build a house of pitch with the automated replies if the pitch is not the good fit. And this brings us to this part when we sort the pitches you get online. You can share your screen and then go through the pitches and comment on them. Like, what do you think? Like, are they good for the stories, or what should be in the pitch card? Any improvements that comes to your head?
Right. Okay.
Should be able to do it.
Yeah, I've got the screen up. Oh, there we go. More. I should go in the chat. Sorry. Okay. Oh, wow. I'm just reading some of the comments. Okay. All right. Yeah, it is mean-spirited, Molly. It is a bad look. There was a guy who used to work at the New York Times. He used to make a sport of doing this. And then he no longer worked at the New York Times. And guess what? Not as many people used to talk to him as often as they did. And he created a lot of enemies, including people. Exactly. I mean, treat people the way you want them to treat you. I mean, that's just common humanity, decency.
So we are waiting for you to share the screen with your pitches on how.
Oh, wait. How do I do that? Wait, sorry. Sorry.
So you just open the account and then share the screen.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
And we will
do I have to open, so you want me to open my accounts?
Yep.
Oh, okay, wait, sorry. I've got to, oh no. Sorry, I'm kind of got too many things open on my screen. So I have to go to my account right now. Sorry. Ah, to talk about something for the in the interim. I have to go into the here we go. Oh no, I have to sign in. Okay, I'm signing in. Sorry. Okay. So the pitches, there are 8. Is that correct?
Yes, there are
Okay.
8 pitch cards.
Intento secures 8. Okay.
Yeah, if you can
First
share
one.
the screen so we see the pitch cards.
Oh, wait. Oh, shoot. Can I just go through it right now? Okay. So the first one basically is just a $8 million Series A investment. I'll just summarize it because so one thing we don't do is we don't do a funding stories unless it's like some magnificent amount of money involving like an OpenAI or an Anthropic. And then the second one I'm looking at is NFTs are dead. God, this is going to be easy for me because I don't cover NFTs. I don't cover crypto at all. I just don't have the bandwidth to cover it. So no. So the third one, why investing in founders could outperform startup investments. So there's a study that shows 1,750 US tech founders and VC funding. I would be interested in that because I do cover VC. So I'm interested in VC funding. Another one, AI incubators launched in Silicon Valley to assist businesses in making AI work the best for them. That's right in my alley. I am interested in that. Then there's, would you like to interview leading AI experts? Yes, I would. But it's vague about, it's an AI conference, but it says these people will share and discuss the latest developments in AI. But that's like so broad, I don't know what that means, right? I want something more specific. Then we'll talk about AI. Oh, here you go. So I'll say, God, I kind of want to say yes, but I can't. All right. So I'll say no. Yeah, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. Yeah, so that's kind of my drift. I mean, I want to be specific, but I don't want to be too specific. I mean, I want it to be specific. I don't want things to be generalized. I guess that's kind of the takeaway. So we don't cover funding. Partnerships, sometimes we do them. It depends on who the partners are. If it involves NVIDIA, of course, we're going to write about it because it's NVIDIA. Appointments, CEO appointments, only if it's a major company that's bringing in a CEO or CFO or somebody on the board who's really well known, or somebody's retiring. Depends on the company again.
So there should be more information. Like if the topic is too broad, it's hard to make a decision. It can be interesting and it can be off your bit. So be specific when you pitch. And
yeah, I mean,
information on your pitch card.
Yeah, we get a lot of pitches for conferences. And it depends on the conference and it depends on who's speaking at the conference. Those don't usually yield very good results because the people are speaking on a very controlled script. And unless it's somebody who's outspoken, who's likely to say something in a Q&A, doesn't really equate to anything that we could use. I guess we just don't want like formulaic talking points presented to us at conferences. And it always comes down to the person who's talking. You know, reporters are notorious about being attracted to sources that are names, that have opinions, that are willing to talk about a news event. If they're canned quotes, we'll almost never use them.
Yeah.
And then there's some, there's just some companies that just will always get coverage, even if They don't announce it like Apple.
Even
They
if
could
they
they could
say
announce
something
their
meaningless and generic. Yep.
oh no, they could announce they're opening a stop sign near an app store and somebody will
Yep.
write about it. So I just like I don't get it.
Yeah,
But that's
we
going to
can
change. That might change with them.
might change. Yeah, let's hope that.
I hope so.
We can go further to the next card.
Oh, what was it? Oh shoot. Sorry. I'm oh, here we go. Oh wow, what's that? TripAdvisor founder saves money. No, I don't care. Sorry. I just don't care. Oh, sorry. Okay. God, I'm sounding like an ass right now. Your all-in-one personal management solution. Oh, it's a product story. Pass. So product stories we really don't usually write about unless it's something that's even that's rarely ever.
Okay, so we see that the expert opinions and something that explains the situation better with the specific company, their legal issues, or the development of AI is of interest. And if you have stories or you have opinions, please pitch Jon on House of Pitch and get this brief reaction, yes or no, if the story is interesting. We will connect you in the emails. And
Oh wow. Oh, sorry. I'm just like talking to somebody already about something that I said yes to. Okay, sorry.
So this is pretty much it. There is a question in the chat. Alisa asks, do you like example quotes in your pitches that like get a sense of the source's expertise and the stance and their particular position in the matter that you're covering?
I do.
Awesome.
I do like that. Sometimes I'll get unsolicited pitches from experts who will have a quote. And this sometimes actually pretty good. They'll send a quotes. They'll say, hey, there's this ruling. Apple was sued by the Department of Justice. Here's our expert. We're going to send to you with a couple of quotes of what they think about this. Would you like to talk to them? So they give you an idea of how much that person knows and their point of view. And they do a lot of heavy lifting for you. Like they basically show you what their source thinks about something and how well they know the topic. And I usually say yes to those.
What if the opinion contradicts your thinking?
That's fine. That's
Okay.
fine. Actually, so one of the things that reporters are asked to do is they want conflict in stories. They want differences of opinions. So if everybody agrees on something specifically, that makes for a boring story because you can't use the same quote over and over. So you want people with varying, nuanced opinions, different takes, different approaches to something. The more different the approaches are, the better it makes for the story. So I want people to totally disagree in stories. Well, because there's no right or wrong, really. I mean, in the end, maybe somebody is right, but that's why people have opinions, right? I mean, we're not all supposed to agree on everything.
There is a lot of promising information that we received today. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for your time.
And we will send more PR pitches your way and hope we will get more diverse stories about what's going on in the world. And we wish you all the best. And we wish you, our founders and PR professionals, a good day. You can always reach out to us with your questions if you have about the platform. Have a nice one. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.